Hello, gentle listeners, and welcome to Go, my favorite sports team. Tyler here, your sports master's degree recipient, the one that knows the knowledge of the sports world, the one that listens and watches the sports games and sporting events, the one that is here.
Why are you talking like that?
Mark, I don't know.
Why are you talking all official like?
I'm being
stuttering?
official.
I don't know. It's weird. You never talk like that. Hi, I'm Mark. I'm the other guy on this podcast, the guy who doesn't know sports. Hey, the door's open.
Oh.
Right back. Oh, yeah.
Podcast doors.
Woo!
Woo!
How you doing today?
I am quite well. I was moving some stuff around, getting my weight stuff set up. I signed up for a boxing gym, which is new.
And you said that the boxing gym owner,
the
instructor,
not the instructor. He's the
Sparring
general
partner.
manager, the manager.
General manager.
He graduated high school before us, literally the same high school.
1 year difference, right? So they were a year above.
Yeah,
Who were they?
Graduated in 06.
Would my brother know them? Because he was 06.
You're asking me to remember the guy's name. I'm so bad with names.
You signed up for a club with him.
Yeah,
I mean, you are better at names than I am.
We talked about the club less than we talked about him.
I bet you don't even remember the name of the club.
I do, but I'm not gonna say it.
You're afraid throngs of fans will show up and beat you to a pulp.
Yes, exactly.
I can see that. But anyway, so today's topic is not. I'm so sorry, Mom.
It's not at Belch's, that's for sure.
It's not about boxing. It is about something even better than boxing.
It's about performance enhancements.
Oh, I thought it was about drugs.
Both. Drugs are performance enhancing.
What else is what's else performance enhancing?
Surgeries.
Go.
So like there are surgeries now that can increase your height.
Well, I know about like there's breast enhancement. There's that thing where they freeze your fat.
It's like
what's it called?
Fat freezing. It's not liposuction.
Yeah, exactly. It's the one that they freeze your fat. You know, the freeze fatter, the fat freezer,
the cryo. Saturation lipid freezer-operator.
Yeah, freezer-operator. Sure, man. Okay, but there's also penis pills, penis pumps, penis is.
Those do exist. Balls and hoops.
We're talking about performance enhancements.
Oh. Did you know that Chad Ochocinco, claims that he took Viagra before every football game when he played in Cincinnati? Like, actually, apparently that was the thing.
Why?
I don't know. He wanted to look bigger.
I mean, wouldn't that make it, what if you get hit with a boner and it snaps it right in half?
Well, I could imagine that because of the way, like, Viagra works, it would enhance blood flow, right? But only to that specific region?
I don't know how Viagra works specifically, if it's blood flow in general or if it's just to the penis pump blood things.
I mean, it's got to be to that area, right?
Why are we wondering?
I don't know.
Stay on topic, Tyler.
All right.
Why are you going off track? That's my job.
Well,
that's what those guys, those knuckle-dragging Neanderthals over at Distractable do. We here at Go, my favorite sports team, are a classy organization for classy listeners.
Where we're focused on the important topics at hand.
Exactly.
Well, before we get into this, I did want to talk about a few things that are going on in the sports world today.
Your urgent sports news update.
Well, the Indy 500 just happened.
Okay.
It was a Swedish person that just won the Indy 500
for
the first time in a while.
You couldn't have said like a monumental event in a more boring way.
The Indy 500!
Yeah, the Indy 500 just happened. It's like, all right, man. That wouldn't even fit a pamphlet of information.
The Indy 500 is a pinnacle open wheel United States motor racing event.
All right, that sounds cooler.
And it happens in Indianapolis. That's why it's called the Indy 500. And Marcus Ericsson wins for the first time. He had originally transferred from Formula One to the United States to become a superstar in racing.
What's Formula One?
Formula One is the world's premier motorsport league.
What's a motorsport? You see how you're like the Wikipedia page of like rabbit holes right now?
Motorsport is a sport involving a motorized vehicle of some kind.
Like a lawnmower.
It could be that they probably are lawnmower races. I know there are tractor pulls.
But those don't exist.
Anyway, back to the breaking news. Also,
click.
The Golden State Warriors have advanced to the NBA Finals, which is the team that I picked to win it all.
Yeah, that's my team, baby.
And today, right now, that's not your team. That's not who you picked.
That's my team.
Well, the Celtics and Heat are playing in Game 7 to decide who faces off against Golden State tonight.
Those are my teams.
You did pick the Celtics, that's for sure.
Yeah.
The NHL hockey, the Avs and Oilers are facing off. Oilers you did pick. Avs I did pick. And the Tampa Bay Lightning has advanced to the Eastern side finals.
Are those the
well.
Liars? No, that's Tennessee Titans.
No,
Titans?
it was the Timberwolves.
Oh, right. That's why they were liars.
Or no, the Grizzlies. It was the Memphis Grizzlies. They're the Liars.
Both.
That would have been liar both ways. Is that the end of the urgent news bulletin? I'm sorry. The last bit was something we talked about in Sports and Ethical, the good in sports. That part.
There's no good in sports. Don't you know that sports was just fought up by Rome, like to give people bread at the circus or whatever?
No.
I don't know. You're not really looking at the leftover stadiums and the devastation. Don't worry, they don't listen to this podcast.
Quit bringing up my Twitter arguments. No, but there's a protest happening because of the school shooting that happened in Texas.
Of course, yes.
The general manager of the San Francisco Giants has been staying in the clubhouse during the national anthem to protest with relation to needing to fix the issues in the United States, mainly being the issue of gun violence.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing, and it's a huge topic today because the biggest thing about it is because it relates to the Colin Kaepernick incident, because he's being championed because Colin Kaepernick got vilified, right?
Yes.
And so a lot of people are comparing the two, and the biggest reason they're comparing the two is because the argument is to be had that Colin Kaepernick paved the way to the point to where people show more respect to these people that stand up and speak out for wrongdoings.
I agree.
So,
I agree 100%. Yeah.
And that's the biggest news of them all. And I wanted to save that for last. So end of news bulletin. All right, so drugs.
Right, yes, I'm listening. We all are listening. All the listeners are listening.
All right, so to give some perspective, what competitive integrity means, because I talk about this a lot.
Wait a minute. Say that word again.
Competitive integrity.
And what were we talking about?
Drugs.
Drugs. Specifically, performance-enhancing drugs.
Correct.
Not cocaine.
Which is arguably a performance-enhancing drug.
How?
It gives you, I don't know exactly how cocaine works. It does enhance blood flow. It can hype you up to the penis, always.
Everything to the penis.
But marijuana can also be considered a performance-enhancing drug.
A performance.
I'm so jittery all of a sudden.
PED. How much coke did you take before this podcast?
0, unless Coca-Cola counts. But then that's also 0. Moving on.
I sprinkled coke in my Diet Dr. Pepper.
So when it comes to performance-enhancing drugs, one of the biggest things that people talk about why they should be omitted and why it's a big deal is competitive integrity.
Of course. Okay,
and so
now I see.
I want to define competitive integrity because I've spoken about it before earlier in different episodes of the podcast.
Have you?
I have.
Why does that word sound so new to me?
I don't know.
People think that I act like an idiot most of the time. I legitimately don't know if you're bullshitting me that you said the words performance integrity before.
Not performance integrity, competitive integrity.
See? I don't even know what I'm talking about, man. Performance integrity, competitive. I don't know. Okay, so I don't remember you ever saying those words before, but go on.
Yes. So competitive integrity means that we want aspiring pros, which is youth, amateur, and professional athletes, to have a fair shot at reaching the highest level of play through merit-based competitions.
Right.
So the idea is that they want people to advance and decide a victor based on a person's skill, natural athletic ability, talent, and teamwork.
Okay.
Rather than external factors. And the basis of this argument is external factors would be things like surgeries, performance-enhancing drugs, gambling, all the different other things.
Gambling?
So gambling can affect it.
They're doing lines of coke at the blackjack table? How does gambling performance enhance?
It's not necessarily performance-enhancing. Have you ever heard of the Black Sox? was the Chicago White Sox that were
I've heard
betting
of
on
the
baseball.
brown pants.
Brown stockings.
The brown stockings. That's what it was.
So the
There
Black
we go.
Sox were in the World Series against the Cincinnati Reds.
Sure.
And there was a
likely
bookie.
story, man. Cincinnati Reds in the World Series. Whatever, man.
Back in the day, they were really good. Big Red
the
Machine.
day? What day? Never.
Early years when we were born, 1990s, 91.
Might as well be forever ago, man. Come on.
Anyway,
Those
moving on.
ancient days back then, man.
This is the best describer I can give you for how gambling can impact sports.
Describer, descriptor, description,
Yes.
descriptor.
Analogy. Example. That's the word I was looking for, was example.
Okay. Sorry, I'm picking apart your words today.
I'm struggling
I don't know
today. It's fair.
We didn't warm up at all.
No. The Chicago Black Sox played the Cincinnati Reds in the World Series. They were considered the premier team at that time.
Okay.
One of the famous players on that team was Shoeless Joe Jackson.
What?
He ran out of his
That's such
shoes.
a good nickname.
He ran out of his shoes. He was so fast he would run out of his shoes. That's why he
Tie him better. That's not an excuse for speed. Unless you're so fast you explode out of your shoes and like the tops just rip off as your feet are pulling straight out of them. You're not that fast. You just got loose shoes or slippery socks. Why don't they call him Sweaty Sweet Joe Johnson? What was his name?
Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Slippin' Sloppy. What?
Jackson. Joe Jackson.
Could have sworn you said Jew Jackson.
Joe.
I
Joe.
could've- did I-
J-O-E.
Am I
Joe.
crazy? Will play that bit. Did I hear that right?
Joe Jackson.
Maybe it's because I was like slip and slew, and I was like, no, it can't keep rhyming. Anyway, continue.
They were playing against the Cincinnati Reds, and
The what? I swear it's not just
I'm
my
saying
ears.
Cincinnati Reds. No, I am
didn't hear.
enunciating.
I will. Please play back Cincinnati.
They were playing against the Cincinnati Reds. All right.
Yeah.
So apparently a number of players on the Chicago White Sox, which is their actual name,
Wait, I thought it was the Black Sox.
they're known as the Black Sox because of the gambling fiasco.
Oh, okay.
In that they were working with a bookie to throw the games. So they were purposely
right.
losing.
That's how the performance dehance.
Correct.
It's not the right
not
word, but it's
enhanced.
close enough. The
Yeah,
concept,
yeah.
yeah.
But there's an argument to be had that, like, you know, it has a correlation to competitive integrity, which was the topic we were talking about at the time. So the key thing about that is making sure that it's through hard work, skill acquisition, intelligence, all of that
Boring.
to win the competitions.
Right. That's not performance integrity, competitive integrity.
Competitive integrity.
Competitive integrity.
Yeah. So that's a huge deal because if you lose the integrity of the sport, right, all of a sudden it's like how we talked about in the nil conversation. If one team has so much more money, they can buy the best players.
Yeah, yeah.
There's not competitive integrity.
Right. So to summarize this for all the me's out there that are listening, basically competitive integrity is the concept that a kid growing up has, no matter the circumstances of their upbringing, has just as much of a chance if they work just as hard as another kid or player or whoever in different circumstances. Everyone level playing field.
Yeah, the competition should be a level playing field.
Oh, no.
Those L's are getting me. And we talked about this also when it came. My mind just went blank completely.
When we came... When did we came?
Is that what I said?
I think so.
Oh no.
You have a few puffs before.
No, I was working in the garage in the very hot crawl space in the top.
Sure, the fumes. I
Yeah.
get you.
The dust, the spiders. I probably got bit by a few of them, you know.
Yeah.
But we talked about this at the very beginning of this podcast with a sporting chance.
Okay. Yes.
For a team to have a sporting chance, competitive integrity has to be intact.
Right. Okay. It all ties back to the very beginning. If you guys weren't listening from the very beginning and you don't know what we're talking about, you've got some homework to do and you need to go watch from the beginning and back to here. Repeat everything to discipline yourselves for failing to do so in the first place.
And take notes. Write everything down. This is
No, that's boring. Re-record it in your own voice, playing both characters. That's what I want to see on the subreddit next. Someone playing me and Tyler reciting an entire episode of Go.
So that'll be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
How many performance-enhancing drugs do you think are out there, Mark?
Oh, my God. You got cocaine, heroin. You said marijuana.
Yep.
Gambling. You said.
I wouldn't call that a drug, though.
Steroids, mega steroids, different steroids, big ball steroids, small ball steroids. None that change the size of your ween, but there's one that changes the size of your nipples. There's one you inject in the ear. There's one you inject in between your toes. You've got Adderall.
That is considered performance.
Amphetamines, methamphetamines, methylphenidate, alcohol. Would alcohol performance your enhance?
Arguably, yeah.
Viagra.
I don't know if that's listed.
No, that is actually legitimately a performance-enhancing drug, just a different type of performance.
That's true.
I'm just saying, man. I'm done.
All right. Well, there's massive lists on the NCAA website of what is considered unallowed. In that are simple things such as caffeine.
What?
Caffeine is, in fact, a performance-enhancing drug.
But it's banned?
It is banned after a certain amount. So if you have an absorbent amount of caffeine, you then would test positive for being on a performance-enhancing substance. Like one Mountain Dew or one coffee isn't going to do it. But if you pound like 50 coffees, yeah, you're
going to have a heart attack in the middle of the field anyway, but...
Yes.
Yeah, weird.
Cocaine is, in fact, listed as a performance-enhancing
I would believe
drug.
that, yeah.
You've already talked about amphetamine. Adderall is listed on here.
Oh, yeah.
But there's a few other drugs that you didn't think of, like erythropoietin.
How could I not think of erythropoietin?
Well, it's even...
Oh, woe is my erythropoietin for not thinking of erythropoietin. What is that?
It is a blood doping substance. It stimulates your red bone marrow to create more red blood cells.
Okay.
So it would increase the amount of red blood cells in your blood, therefore increasing your hemoglobin and the ability to carry oxygen into your muscles. It's primarily used by endurance athletes.
Yeah, isn't that, but couldn't you just do the high altitude training and get that anyway? Why would you need to pump a drug for it?
So the interesting thing to talk about high altitude training, training at high altitude is actually shown to be negative. If you live at high altitude, the natural altitude acclimation is where you get the positive results. Theoretically, the best way to train is actually to live at high altitude and train at low altitude, because you're not able to train as hard because your body is not getting the same amount of oxygen.
I see.
When you're training at altitude.
Now I get you. Live in mountain, walk down mountain, carry Madame Zeroni up the mountain.
Who's Madame Zeroni?
Oh my God. Everyone listening, shame Tyler on the subreddit. Don't tell him what it is, but just shame him. Don't look it up. Don't Google it.
Nope, too late.
No, don't do it. Have you found it?
Yeah.
And what is it?
A movie character?
It's from Holes. The movie Holes?
That's not what it's listed as on here.
I mean, maybe.
Madame Zeroni was the woman who cursed Elia Yelnate and his family line. It is from Holes. I'm dumb.
Everybody shame him in the
It's been so long since I read that book or watched that movie.
Yeah, it's okay. I only watched it recently, like 2 weeks ago.
But there's a slew of performance-enhancing drugs.
Sure, yeah.
The most well-known is obviously anabolic steroids.
Okay.
Which is a artificial form of testosterone enhancement.
Okay.
To where you are able to build muscle at a rapid rate. Obviously, side effects are roid rage, small testicles,
acne,
increase in estrogen production in the body as well to counteract that. Yeah, man boobs. And obviously, heart attacks.
Yeah.
Major health issues, brittle bones.
Brittle bones? Okay.
So all of those things are negative for taking that drug. But not only does it affect competitive integrity, if one person started using this and it was considered legal, right?
Everyone would have to use it to get to the same place, thereby putting more people in danger.
Health-wise, yes.
Okay. That makes complete sense.
And so, like, from a logical and reasoning standpoint, that is why a lot of this stuff is banned. However, there's a number of different people that have outcried recently, especially when it came to marijuana.
Okay.
An Olympic athlete, a runner, a sprinter, which marijuana would not be considered a performance-enhancing drug in that particular sport. It's considered a performance-enhancing drug in certain sports where you need calming. So if you're like shooting a bow and arrow and you want to have like a more relaxed feel, then it can be considered performance enhancing. But one of the famous U.S. sprinters wasn't able to go to the Tokyo Games because of positive testing marijuana.
So he was banned?
She was banned, yeah. She was
banned?
not allowed to go.
What?
Yeah.
For weed?
For weed. And that's not a new thing because that even happens in the NFL and other places like that where you would think marijuana would not have a positive impact.
Yeah.
So there's a certain level where drugs as a whole are looked down upon, but at the same time, there needs to be more education, in my opinion, about what's performance enhancing, right?
Yeah, exactly. It can't just be something that's on a banned substance list. Of course, marijuana and being on those lists is completely ridiculous. And in California, it's pretty much completely legal for people of age and with an ID. It's just so weird. Why is alcohol not like on a banned list?
It is.
And it is?
Yep. The NCAA has alcohol and other beta blockers on the ban list.
Beta blockers. Is alcohol a beta blocker? I don't even know.
Alcohol is, well, it's not a beta blocker. It says and beta blockers.
Okay. But it's just like with the Olympics, it's like, come on. I get that international policies in different countries have different rules, but I'm pretty sure everybody in the world knows we probably don't do that. We probably ain't going to make you run faster. There's no way that it could make you run faster. That's so stupid.
Yeah.
All those dreams crushed. Why? Maybe they weren't even smoking. Maybe they were just at a party where there was like a bunch of people smoking weed. Because I bet those tests can pick up that minute trace of it, right?
I don't know whether it was, I'm pretty sure it's just a piss test. So, I mean, and from what I've read, because I've never experienced this before, is that it can stay in your system for like, before it flows out of your system for an extended period of time, especially in your hair.
Yeah.
But
well, I'm sad now. What did you just tell me the story to make me sad? I'm sad.
No, I just wanted to point out that there's a complex situation with the performance-enhancing drugs and what is considered performance-enhancing drugs. Because the other problem with this is in the banned substance are diuretics, things that would help you disguise that you are taking performance-enhancing drugs because it's all pee tests.
Diuretics are things that make you pee more, for everyone who doesn't know that at home.
Correct. And so for me, I was taking 3 different banned substances when I was participating in NCAA athletics.
Interesting.
But I was allowed to because of being anemic. I was on Epogen.
Okay.
Which is a erythropoietin.
Right.
Because I was anemic. All of this was right before I went into chronic kidney failure, for the record.
Okay.
I was on a diuretic because it was helping me with my kidney function called not amlodipine. That's a different drug. Enalapril.
Okay.
Was considered a diuretic. It's the one that caused me to cramp up real bad in the regionals.
Gotcha.
For water polo the one year. So, like, there's certain levels where they will allow you to have drugs as long as there's obvious evidence and doctor's orders. But in the NFL and everywhere else, sometimes that's not enough.
Wow.
So the other thing that comes into factor of this is drug testing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the privacy laws surrounding that.
Okay.
So I want your opinion of this because I'm of the belief that when you are given millions of dollars to participate as a professional athlete and for the safety of an entire community, and I'm an outlier in this. I get blood drawn all the time. I don't find a blood test to be able to be a professional athlete that invasive.
I mean, no. I personally would not think it to be invasive. Like, your blood is a standard indicator of what's going on inside your body. It would be a direct indicator of what chemicals are going on. There's no way people are going to take that blood and clone you or something like that. Like, what harm could really come from a blood test unless you just really hate needles?
Yeah. And so it's one of those things that, to me, I think of being a professional athlete a distinct privilege. As opposed to something that's a right. Obviously, they have a union with the collective bargaining agreement, a players' association argues. But I personally think I've been drug tested randomly numerous times, and it's always been peeing in a cup. and peeing in a cup is what it is, but a blood test would show more. And honestly, in my opinion, protect the safety of everybody within that field so much better.
They should be getting regular blood tests anyway.
Yeah, just to check on their health.
Yeah, exactly. Their health is their entire job. So if they're not keeping up with their health, then they're not doing their job right. They should be going to a doctor regularly.
Correct. But the question is of whether somebody else can look at what's going on in their blood and determine whether or not they can be a professional athlete anymore.
I mean, isn't that part of the deal? Couldn't that just be in the contract for what they do? They signed the contract.
That's my belief.
Uh-huh.
That's my belief. But again, that's a big thing the union fights against. They don't want them to have to get drug tests in the sense of it has to be random. It has to be just a piss test.
Uh-huh. I mean, if there was an efficacy difference between blood tests and piss tests and you had a greater suspicion of someone for actually taking an illegally banned substance, then I would be more in favor. But also, if the standard for a certain test and a certain drug can only be detected with a blood test, then yeah, you got to do the blood test. Because if it doesn't show up in piss, you got to look at the blood.
Which there are drugs and not artificial forms of testosterone, but harvested testosterone that can go completely undetected. HGH.
Horse testosterone, blast it right in the blood veins.
Well, human growth hormone
comes
as
from
opposed to anabolic steroids.
It's present in pregnant women's urine, which is why the pregnancy tests work. This is your random Markiplier fact of the day. Woo! But yeah, that's human growth hormone. I don't know what it does. I think it grows humans.
That
sure that's how the baby gets grown.
Baby, that's what it is. You know, the mothers are just injecting human growth hormone into their
They're peeing
babies.
into their own.
Oh my God!
Censor me. Will, cancel me. Will, cancel me. Cancel me.
All right. So these are the things that are banned, right?
Right.
All of these drugs, all of these things that are considered performance enhancing are banned. But Steph Curry recently got LASIK eye surgery a few seasons ago.
That bastard. I knew he was up to no good. These goddamn performance enhancing. What did he get?
LASIK eye surgery. He made his ability to see better.
Uh-huh.
His vision was not great, and he was still performing exceptionally and made it in the NBA.
Okay.
But he recently got LASIK eye surgery to correct his vision. The thing is, I don't know if he did this. This is just knowledge about LASIK eye surgery nowadays. You can get eye surgery now that makes your vision better than the average.
Cool.
You can go above 20/20 vision.
Cool. Sign me up.
But the interesting thing on that front, it is not considered performance enhancing in the same way that drugs are. The Olympic Committee talks about drugs being its own separate genre. And the reason they give for this is because of the detrimental factors that a lot of the drugs that they have banned have to the health of the athlete.
Okay.
But that's why surgeries generally are not frowned upon.
They're not.
Because they're not something that has side effects that would be detrimental unless something goes wrong during the procedure.
Yeah, and also just like we're not really to the part in human surgeries where we can enhance a human that much. But I imagine you're about to tell me all the ways that we can enhance a human, which I am very interested.
So, have you ever heard of Tommy John surgery?
Okay, hold on. Surgery enhancement number 1. Tommy John surgery?
Tommy John surgery.
Tommy John.
Primarily found in baseball.
Okay, what is Tommy John
Tommy John surgery, formerly known as ulnar collateral ligament reconstruction.
Wow.
Is reconstruction of the ligaments and tendons in the elbow.
Okay, all right, handy.
Now, today has been shown that people after Tommy John surgery.
Today has?
My brain is all over the place right now. Today, we can see plainly that people coming back from Tommy John surgery can throw a baseball significantly harder and faster. They have the ability to tighten somebody's elbow. Aroldis Chapman is a great example of this. He had a surgery done when he was in Cuba, which is where he's from. And he went from his throwing being in around the 80s to low 90s to throwing 100+ miles per hour on every fastball pitch.
Wow. I'm imagining that's good.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. So they just go in with a screwdriver and they tighten her up? They tighten the coils and
not
spring
exactly.
a bow?
They're reconstructing all of the ligaments in your elbow to where they can make it so that your
Arm. It's called an arm.
No, I'm trying to think the tension in the elbow.
Ah, okay.
To be heightened to the point to where you have more
springiness to it. It'll it's more
correct.
It's pulley
You have
harder
more
on
power.
the bow, on the weenus.
Yes.
And so when you extend your arm, it's already pulling you. Okay, interesting. What are they rebuilding it out of?
I think it's generally just made out of other parts of the body. So, like, have you know ACL surgeries?
I know of them. I don't know how they're done.
There are two ways that they're done. One is cadaver donor.
Okay.
The second one is they can sometimes go down and take a piece of the patellar tendon and put that in as the ACL. Most of the time, a cadaver donor, they take the Achilles.
Okay. Not their ACL. They would take a different tendon.
Correct. Because the reason they take a tendon is because tendons have more healing properties than ligaments do. Most ligaments don't get the blood flow. The difference between a tendon and a ligament is simply how and what they're attached to. A tendon attaches bone to muscle. A ligament attaches bone to bone. And so it's a lot easier to harvest tendons than it is to try and harvest ligaments. And if you cut a ligament, it doesn't exactly fit in the spot where you're trying to replace.
Yeah.
Whereas the tendon is longer and they have a lot more wiggle room
That
for
makes
that.
sense. That makes sense. All right. Okay. So this is a Tommy John surgery.
Yep.
That you can get to make your fastballs faster. Okay. And this is not banned?
This is not banned. This is
Okay.
something that undergoes a lot of pitchers a lot of time.
Okay.
It undergoes a lot.
Yeah, I wasn't going to
A
question
lot of
it, man.
pitchers undergo a lot of the time.
Maybe you should just get up, take a walk. Maybe just like stand a stretch. Get up. Come on, get up.
Power
stretch.
through,
No,
power
no,
through.
you need a good stretch. Just stretch it out. Yeah, there you go. Wait, no, don't get naked. What are you doing, man? Dude, put your pants back on.
You told me to stretch.
No, not that.
I'm
Oh,
getting
God.
into the shower.
Oh.
You stretch better in the hot water.
All right, Tyler, what's surgery number 2?
Surgery number 2 is a height-enhancing surgery.
A height-enhancing surgery.
Correct.
A height like South Park.
Like getting taller, yes.
Pray tell, how,
Well, this surgery was originally designed...
surgery? You okay, man?
I've been on a calorie deficit, and I think it's messing with my brain.
Okay, yeah. Okay, this surgery.
The surgery was originally designed to correct mismatch length in legs.
Okay, yeah.
So to help people with back issues, because if your legs are not...
Sure. My
Close enough.
grandpa on my mom's side actually had one leg shorter than the other.
Oh.
From a botched surgery when he was a kid.
Well, my mom had that issue because she broke her leg in college, and it healed bowed. So
I see.
that leg ended up being shorter than the other.
Gotcha.
She had a crazy external fixator and all that stuff to straighten out the bone. It was nuts. Well, apparently, this has become a new rage in just the dating world. But you can have leg lengthening surgery to get taller. And that's a
Okay.
huge deal for sports like the NBA.
Sure, yeah.
Because where height is practically king.
I cannot imagine a way that this surgery is done without breaking your legs.
I don't think it is. I think they use metal rods for it.
I'm guessing they drill into your legs.
Yeah.
Wouldn't your muscle, would it stretch it? How long does this take? If it is stretching, it must take months, if not a year, right?
It takes a long time to recover.
Why don't they just crack the bones in half, take some of the pieces of bone, shred them out a little bit, and then let it all heal with like some cement or something?
Because you can't really put cement in your body.
I don't know, man. I'm not a surgeon. Okay, so you said this is all the rage in the dating scene, though.
Yes.
So this is not as applicable to NBA, because I imagine it would probably make your legs a little weaker too. So all that jumping, you might actually be more susceptible. But the dating world, why is this big in the dating world?
Because apparently height is a big deal for men in being sought after.
The short kings of the world.
Correct.
Yes, they're getting scooped up left and right.
But also, like, there are some people out there that just would prefer to be taller for utility purposes, being able to reach the top shelf.
No, it's not.
No, that's literally an explanation.
No,
this guy
that's
gave.
not. That's a bad explanation. It's probably just because they're insecure about their height.
More than likely, yeah.
Yeah, which, is if there is a surgery that can go out there and do that for people, more power to them, I guess. But I imagine there's a lot of drawbacks to this. There is nothing that exists like this without some kind of complication down the road, correct?
I would imagine so, but it's like readily available now.
Readily available now.
So there's actually, for the sake of checking to see how easy it is.
For the sake of looking it up, yeah.
Yeah.
Just to see what's up with that.
Just to see what's going on.
Let me see. What is this? Leg? Leg lengthening?
Limb lengthening.
Limb. You can do
surgery.
your arms too.
I imagine probably.
Just even me out, Doc.
Now I can make my arms 7 feet wide. According to this, I found this literally just limb plastics.
Yeah, it's in an ad. I never trust the ad, but also, God, would you look disproportioned if your legs were suddenly like way longer? I know some people have like longer legs, but
I mean, considering the fact that this says you can get taller by up to 6 inches.
Oh, they totally break your bone here.
Yeah, they literally cut your bone.
Oh my God!
Insert a rod in there and then heal the bone back.
Oh!
Which is also crazy because you're sticking a rod through the center of a massive part of your femur.
Yes.
Which houses a ton of important bone marrow.
Yes.
And you're sticking a rod through said bone marrow.
Yes.
And having the leg heal.
Yes.
It's a long healing process.
Yeah, I had a rod in my arm after I broke my arm from falling off the monkey bars. So imagine, viewers, listeners, wrist to elbow, like go a couple inches in on the wrist, couple inches in on the elbow, from one bone to the other diagonally. That's this rod. What was super weird about that, it was for stability's sake because both bones were broken, so it needed to heal properly so I could turn it. But they pulled it out right after the cast. So they like take the cast off, and then the doctor literally just grabs a wrench, a pair of pliers, and grabs the metal rod and just pulls it right out while I'm looking.
Feel like
nothing.
Really?
That was the weirdest thing.
It's because outside of your skin, you don't really have nerves, and I imagine the nerves where the entrance were pretty much dead.
But I would have thought that in the bone, because like breaking the bone hurt so bad. But when he pulled it out, all I felt was just like, some tug of my arm being pulled by something. But the thing sliding out didn't feel like nothing.
Wow.
It was weird.
That's really bizarre.
Yeah.
I know a catheter does not feel good coming out.
No, catheter don't feel
That's
good.
awful. So I was like,
That's very different. Very different. Okay. So I'm gonna look up. Everyone has a different experience with pain during limb lengthening treatment.
Yeah, because it apparently the procedure overview is consultation, the surgery, physical therapy, height realization.
Height realization.
Because I don't know if they actually can tell you, oh, you're going to actually be 6 inches taller, or you're going to just be 1 inch taller.
Yeah, are they going to do both your femur and your shins? Because if you just do femur, you'll have really long femurs, and it'll look kind of weird.
Yeah,
like,
how is that going to affect like your skin? Are you going to get like stretch marks in your skin too?
I'm sure
because
I have stretch marks just because I grew too fast.
Yeah.
So I'm sure, and that was like a growth spurt over like puberty.
I have stretch marks of my quads because of how enormous they became from water polo.
I didn't realize you were joking at first, because I actually have stretch marks on my quads.
No, I actually have stretch marks on my quads.
I thought you were joking at first.
No.
Like dead serious, yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
just because I got muscle really quick when I hit puberty, that's why I went from being bullied to the bully. I didn't bully anybody, but I got muscle, and then suddenly people were like, I don't know if I want to pick on him.
Are yours in the same spot, like on the inside?
The inner thigh? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
we literally have the same.
It's because our big honking quad.
Oh, we're beefy quad boys.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, let's see. An arm or leg may stop growing after a complex fracture or a fracture that heals incorrectly.
It's contagious. I'm infecting you with my word slurs.
You really are. Okay. As the space opened up between these two ends, a new bone grows to fill the gaps. Are you sure a new bone will fill the gap?
The only reason I know that does in fact happen is because I watched that happen with my mom when she had the external fixator.
Ooh.
They had to break her bone and then use that to straighten it. And then, funnily enough, her one leg ended up being longer than the other leg. She could flip the script on him.
It happens. Okay. What happens to the skin, muscles, and nerves around the bone during lengthening? As we lengthen the bone, we are slowly stretching the soft tissues around the bone. I compare it to daily stretching. We monitor patients closely throughout the process. If a nerve is getting stretched too far or a muscle is getting too tight, we will slow down or may even stop the lengthening process. Okay. So obviously, like the how and the why, or at least the how is there. But is this surgery banned in sports?
Since it's relatively new, I have not seen anybody speak on this particular procedure.
I don't imagine that if you're an athlete, the recovery for this must be a year. It has to be a year.
Yeah.
There's no way it's not. Breaking a bone alone is like a 3 to 4 months process of healing. When I broke my foot, it was about 3 months before that was fully, and that was a tiny little chicken bone in my foot. Getting your entire femur not only broken, but stretched out, and then it's a space about however much taller you're about to get that has to regrow bone like Harry Potter. And that took like over 2 nights.
Yeah, and that was magic.
Yeah, it was magic.
Are we talking about when he had to regrow the entire bone?
I don't remember. I'm not a Harry Potter nerd.
I just remember seeing his little flappy arm because it was that one dude that wipes memory that can't cast spells or it's junk.
Yeah. What was his name? Who cares?
Who cares?
Who cares?
So, I mean, we talked about the 3 that I'm well aware of, and those are the 3 that I just, the LASIK eye surgery, the Tommy John surgery, and then this leg lengthening one. That's interesting.
I wish you hadn't brought it up because I can already hear people clamoring to the subreddit being like, oh, Mark, don't you wish you could get that? I'm like, no, I am perfectly happy with my height. I don't want freakishly long femurs. I don't want to be in bed for however long I am. No! I'm fine with my height.
The greatest thing is I was actually going to make that joke when I introduced this surgery, and then I chose not to because I was like, I don't want people to
go
on that.
Just do it. Do it. Come on.
No. I think you're a great height.
Thanks, man.
I think you are perfect the way that you are.
Thank you. But what I am going to do is I'm going to stretch my arms out so you can't brag about having the biggest wingspan anymore. I'm going to get an 8-foot wingspan.
Oh my God. That's like 6 surgeries.
What they're going to do is they're going to chop it up into a whole bunch of different spots of my bones and then stretch it out like a snake.
You're going to have accordion bones.
Exactly. I'll have like those arms from that Switch game with that one lady with the huge booty.
What?
Twintel.
I've never even heard of this.
Twintel. Anyway, carry on.
I wonder if this surgery was what made them realize that Lady Dimitrescu,
Dometre.
That.
You're French. You know this.
I'm not French.
Yeah, why not? Name one reason you're not French.
My family is not from France.
Yeah, right. Anyway, what about Lady Dometre?
I wonder if, like, she had this procedure, canonically.
No, it was part of like the T virus or that fungus thing.
Was that the explanation?
Yeah. She and all of that Lady Medella, whatever her name was, kids were different like side effects of this viral mutation or this fungus.
But didn't they show like the surgery table and that there were like alterations done to each one of them?
No, Lady Domitrescu had done that to the other girls, but they were turned into flies. There's no leg lengthening going there. Lady Domitre just grow big.
Just big natural.
Drinks her big naturals. Yep, you're right, man. You're very right. Yeah. No, I was almost going to get LASIK. It's like how much I'm not really about these kind of surgeries or anything that's like anything. I'm sure it works and it's fine if anybody wants it. But the problem that I have, even with LASIK, is this concept of a solution for a problem now that down the road technology may get better at. Because if you have to get LASIK, you still have to get a cut on your cornea that will never heal. That flap of your cornea when you get LASIK will never go away. And it's usually 99.999% of the time not a problem. But it just seems to me barbaric to do something like that when down the road there might be a better solution technologically speaking that doesn't require you to do permanent damage to an organ that will not heal. And for some reason, in my mind, looking at a surgery like this, I am not so desperate for a few more inches that I am willing to break my legs in half. And let me actually look up what is the I'm so curious of what the recovery time is.
Limb lengthening recovery time.
Okay. after the lengthened bones are fully consolidated and with the doctor's approval, 6 to 12 months after surgery. Patients can start performance requiring physical activities such as running, jumping, or weightlifting. So you couldn't run, jump, or do anything for 6 to 12 months. Oh, yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, no, thank you.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine that you're able to walk or do a number of things for that.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me because there's been a massive rise in that cosmetic surgery over the last few years. And a lot of it they attribute to what I said in the dating world. But it was one of those things I brought up because I could see it as being an option for somebody who's like, you know, doesn't see another way they make it in the NBA, because sometimes, you know, they evaluate you and they're like, no, you're too short. No, you're too weak. No, you're too this.
Well, it's possible. I mean, you could just wear heels. Wouldn't that be easier? That's equivalent to wearing glasses for LASIK, right? What's the difference? What's it? You're just sticking the heel in your bone. Your genetics aren't that tall.
But heels are designed. They're designed
platform boots.
There you go.
There we go. I mean, literally, like, there's no difference in between. And I know some people do this. People who would do this. You know, their shoes. Do you remember Amy bought me? Those like 5-inch, way too high lift men's lift shoes that are supposed to quote look like normal shoes. They don't. They don't at all.
Because I remember you walking in and being like, hey guys, and I'm like, the hell?
What do you mean? And that's what it would look like if my legs were that long, because it's just like, it looks weird.
Yeah.
I mean, again, all power to you if you want to go do this, get the surgery, but it's just like, I have a funny feeling it's going to lead to some weird complications.
I want to do an experiment.
You want to lengthen my legs?
No. Those shoes. I want you to wear those where nobody knows you. Like, not nobody knows you, but nobody who knows you and has seen you at your height.
Right, okay.
And to see if anybody realizes
this is most people. Like, I just want you to know, this is most people, because this happens like every single time that I talk to someone, like, oh, you're taller than I thought you were. I go like, thank you.
Well, that's because we all joke about how short you are. Like, you made the joke of like, I'm only 4'10" or something like that at different points in time. But I'm actually curious if they would notice that you were wearing those shoes. Because, like, obviously I do.
Oh, my God. Well, number one, I'm walking as if I'm walking in 5-inch stilettos. Like, that's kind of
I imagine if you practice,
I actually don't have the shoes anymore. I don't know where they went, because we had those on tour back in, like, 2017 or 2018.
Yeah, it was like their
And then
ones.
I thought I brought them back, but I didn't see them anywhere. So I haven't seen them since. And I'm not going to drop another, like, $150 just for the meme.
Shoes.
Unless I could drop it for the meme. I could do that.
I mean, also, just thinking about those shoes, imagine, like, trying to get used to your added height.
Yeah.
Because, like, the pirate you were in Heist.
Captain Magnum.
You were walking on, like, tree stumps.
I know. I was about 7'6", I think, in all that costume. I was 7'6".
7'6"? Yeah. So that added, what, a foot and a half?
Yeah. With the stilts, with everything. It was just like, oh my God, thank you for saying I was 6 feet tall.
You're welcome.
Thank you. But it's just like, it's just like that was nuts. I don't imagine 3 inches would make you that. It would take that much getting used to. And you know what? This has got to be like an expensive thing.
70,000 pounds is what I saw.
70,000 pounds.
Yeah.
What's that in American dollars there?
$75,000 procedure.
$75,000
to go from 5'7" to 5'10".
Oh my God. I mean, actually, no, that's super weird, because if you have to recover for a long time with physical therapy and stuff like that, does that cover all of that?
I think
compared
that's just
to my
the
impromptu stay at the hospital and them having to give me laxatives for my latest bout of bowel issues, that's cheaper than that would have cost me if I didn't have insurance, which is insanity. But okay, they didn't even cut me open. They didn't even break my bones. Now I'm mad.
So the reason I wanted to bring this up is because we talked about a competitive integrity, right?
Okay, yes, we did.
Why do you think it is that surgeries are fine in this manner? Like LASIK and other surgeries like Tommy John, if somebody went and did height surgery.
Sure.
There's other different things that help with injections and different things like that to make you more mobile. But Why do you think those are considered legal, whereas the drugs are considered illegal? I know I talked about it briefly as to why I think it is. Is there something that pops out in your mind? Because the semblance of competitive integrity is you're not altered, right? You're supposed to all have an equal chance.
I mean, I could see the LASIK as that's just seeing better. You would have contacts anyway, and you can get a contact prescription that can get you above or below 20/20. That's why I see that one. The Tommy John, that one's a little odd. If it was guaranteed performance every time with no penalty, it's a little wishy-washy there.
The only time it really happens, because it's not considered illegal, but it's considered frowned upon, but it's done consistently. It's mostly not done in the U.S. It's like I said, Aroldis Chapman had his done in Cuba, but it's usually only done after they already tear their Tommy John, because that's a frequent injury for pitchers in baseball.
Is that what it's called, the Tommy John?
Yeah.
Huh.
It's a Tommy John ligament.
That's why it's Tommy John surgery. Is that the real name? That cannot be the real name.
You want me to
No,
make sure?
no. Okay. The height thing, I don't think that, because it's like so long to recover from it that you kind of set yourself back. If it's a year to recover, you set yourself back a few years in terms of competitive advantage. The only reason I could see you doing that is because you really needed it. And that's how a lot of surgeries are. You don't do surgeries just on a whim most of the time. Usually there is a need, there's a purpose for it, and if you don't have that purpose, then you're not going to voluntarily do surgery, because surgery is inherently risky anyway. So I can see these not being banned for now, because we're kind of in the medical valley of not really being able to improve anyone through medicine. And just because there are a few examples of it doesn't mean that that's like performance-enhancing improvements besides this Tommy John one. And
Which, by the way, is named after the first person the procedure was done on, who was a pitcher in 1974 named Tommy John.
Alrighty then. But I'm assuming they had a name for it. They didn't he tore a ligament and they looked at it and were like,
I said the name earlier is what it was called.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I could see it being a gray area for now, but as soon as we get into what are going to be really interesting, I think, in terms of performance enhancements, is when targeted genetic therapies start to go outside of the realm of treating diseases and treating like underlying genetic predispositions to certain quantities of muscle, to skeletal mass, height, even, kind of like aerobic activity, oxidation factors, mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, like just having more of those. And when you have things like mRNA messenger things tied into like doing things to the body, that instead of just drugs, a lot of people think that drugs are just miracle chemicals that only do the specific thing that they're meant for, and they only treat that one thing. That's wrong. Drugs are chemicals that do a whole bunch of different things in your body all at once, but they just so happen to do a lot of the thing that doctors want them to do.
I was going to say they have side effects.
They have side effects, exactly. The side effects are just the factor of that chemical can do a whole lot of things to the body. And a lot of these medications have side effects, numerous side effects, because they can affect people differently because of their genetic predisposition to certain expressions of enzymes, like mRNA factors, white blood cells, all these different things can affect it differently because the entire human body and the human experience and life on general and on Earth is just a nightmare of unbelievably complex systems of proteins all working autonomously with chemical signals going back and forth to every system of the body. We still don't know how everything works in the body. But when we get to the point where there's genetic therapies that could just be like target specifically the DNA that increases your red blood cell count, so you get more of those. And then suddenly that's like, make more! And your body's like, we're making more, baby! Then you have more red blood cells. How would anyone detect that?
Yeah.
How would anyone detect that?
I mean, just it's usually the viscosity of the blood.
Yeah, but I mean, how would they not be able to prove that that guy just has thicker blood?
That's fair.
Yeah, or this guy, like, has more muscle. I mean, his muscles are stronger.
Yeah.
His bones are denser. His ligaments are, like, intense. When will it become like you can do a genetic therapy to make sure your ligaments are stronger, and that will be required for athletes so that they get hurt less? You know what I mean? There could be safety factors. And then you get into the kind of Frankensteinian level of it. What happens when you get a league that's like, let's genetically make the biggest, bulkiest super athlete possible, and then you make another one, and let's put them in a pit and make them fight? That's a less likely future.
Yeah, just thinking about like just overall ethics.
Ethics
and morality.
This is the Blood Bowl, baby. This is the anarchy of the future.
So I'm going to pose you an interesting topic that is debated about in the world of sports time and time again.
He's ignoring me.
What?
How interesting.
I think it's very interesting.
Okay.
I think it's very topical. I think it's very important to discuss.
Okay, there we go.
There is an era of baseball called the steroid era, where you had there were numerous athletes taking anabolic steroids.
Oh.
You had Markiplier. It was like the age of the home runs. Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa.
I actually know about him and Sammy Sosa doing their home run off.
Yeah.
I know when that happened because for like a few months I was like, I'm going to collect baseball cards. And then I started collecting baseball cards. I think I had a Mark McGwire and then someone else in the neighborhood, Connor Duffy, had a Sammy Sosa. Shout out to Connor.
Woo!
And then we traded cards, and then I never did anything ever again.
Yeah, but there's this whole era because there are also pitchers like Roger Clemens and stuff like that. They are all not allowed. The ones that have been proven to have taken steroids or not necessarily proven, suspected of taking steroids, are banned from the Hall of Fame, even though their accolades include times in which they did not take steroids.
Interesting. So they're completely wiped.
Correct. They are completely blacklisted from being able to make it in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. What is your opinion on whether or not they should be allowed into Baseball Hall of Fame? Because also Pete Rose, who's one of the greatest hitters of all time for the Cincinnati Reds and the league in general, is banned because of gambling when he never threw a game or gambled against himself.
Interesting.
Do you think they should be allowed into the Hall of Fame? Especially considering there's already people that are in the Hall of Fame that they know of that have done steroids as well.
Here's the thing. It's called the Hall of Fame, right? Even I knew who Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa was. I don't follow baseball. If the Hall of Fame doesn't include people that are culturally significant, it's disingenuous, and they're lying to themselves and the integrity of the fans and what they actually care about. Yes, bad for the sport. Set an example. But even I know who Pete Rose is. And he's not in the Hall of Fame?
Nope. He's not allowed in because of gambling.
You know, that's just, I get dying on that hill and why they do that, but at the same time, it doesn't matter what they do because they're wrong, and it kind of makes their institution look weaker if they're not even willing to admit that someone who is probably, if I know him, one of the most famous people in baseball.
He's one of the greatest players of all time.
One of the greatest of all times, and everyone probably knows that who follows baseball. If they are like, we're not going to put him in because of principle, and I'm like, yes, I get the principle, but also everyone disagrees with you, and you kind of are at the whim of the people, aren't you? Everything is eventually. So it's smarmy, and I get it, but also it's smarmy, and I don't like it. So
my opinion is I believe Pete Rose should absolutely be in.
Yeah.
I am at an impasse with the steroid era because, I agree with you. They're very famous. I agree with you in the fact that they reach accolades. The biggest issue that I have overall goes back to competitive integrity. And during that era, I mean, arguably they were all kind of doing it. Not every player was, but a lot of people were. So it's a question of whether you decide to accept the fact that that era existed in baseball.
Right.
And I think that's at the root of it, is they're trying to deny
that even happened.
And that would be in any way considered allowable because that was early on when they didn't realize how bad and how influential anabolic steroids had on performance.
I'd be fine with it either way, to be honest, if they had the right story behind it, because that's really all it is. It's fine either way so long as they present the information. You have a section of the Hall of, I don't know if this is the building or something. Is there a building?
I mean, there's a building for the National Football Hall of Fame. So yeah.
So you have a section of this that's the shame zone. And it's black curtains to get in. There's sad trombones playing when you're in there. But they acknowledge it this is the Hall of Fame of the steroid era. And they're framing the story that way. Look, guys, we were real drunk this decade and we didn't check nobody's piss. We thought that was weird, so we didn't do it. And then, you see all them here and just don't deny it. It's don't deny that it happened, right?
Acknowledge it and accept that it happened and teach people that shouldn't be allowed in the future, and we're working to better the sport, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like old Disney cartoons that were clearly racist in the time.
Oh, yeah.
And then trying to pretend those never happened, is almost worse, because it's better to own, look, this was what the time was, and this is why it's not okay to have done this. We're not trying to hide from the past. I mean, I'm not going to go out of my way to watch those cartoons, and I don't know who is, but at the same time, it's you can't forget that something happened. Trying to ignore what happened in history is what is going to make it repeat itself. Like, not teaching the lessons of the past is what's going to make them come back to haunt you.
That is such a great point, and you have convinced me that I completely agree. They should be, if it is like admitted into the Hall of Fame, as long as it is framed in the right manner.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that like some of those athletes, like Barry Bonds, a lot of his career didn't involve steroids. It wasn't until later in his career, and he was a premier athlete. He was exceptional in every way.
Right.
And so I think they should be in there. And you get into a point that I talk about all the time. When you make an apology, you have to acknowledge the wrong that was done when you make the apology, or else you are not apologizing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then take ownership of that mistake. Make amends if you can. Like, it's not that hard to make an apology.
Yeah.
I don't know why YouTubers have so much trouble.
Because they just want to save face. Some of them.
True.
Anyway, the root of it.
Also, like sportsters' apologies. Athletes, also known as athletes.
Yeah, they've been some good apologies. There've certainly been some bad ones.
It's always like there's a lawyer there, and there's like legally you can't really apologize because I would be taking ownership and blame and blah, 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 blah.
This goes into my PR studying when I was in school. There's a level of you want to have deniability in certain things, but there's a way to do an apology that allows you yourself to accept what happened and not make it feel like you're empty. There's really an art to it. Phrasing and putting stuff in the right frame, the right picture, the right view is so integral in so many facets of life, to where you need to be able to accept what you did, but at the same time, you need to be able to portray the actual immensity of the situation. And I think that's exactly what needs to be done when it comes to performance-enhancing drugs and all of these different things, is understanding the immensity that these have on competitive integrity and making a decision that's right for the sport, right for the athletes, and right for the world as a general whole.
All right, I'll get the leg lengthening surgery. Okay, I'll get it, man. All right, I'll be back. I gotta go. Why are you looking at me like that?
I was like, I guess I'm going to be wheeling you around in a wheelchair for a bit. Nah, but I find the era of performance enhancing, because the whole premise of sport, right? We talked about this, is to push the human condition.
The human body to its limits.
That's
and surpass them, because by doing so we kind of like push our limits, push what we're capable of, reach the absolute limit, and then as biological machines get better and find ways to make it better. But in the future it is going to be interesting to see how these technologies that get developed will affect people going into the future. What kind of cyborgs are we going to make? What kind of like genetic perfection are we going to achieve in terms of like, number one, getting rid of certain illnesses, of course, genetic diseases, fantastic. Even you have a genetic predisposition. It's like a protein thing, right?
Yeah, my kidney disease is hereditary nephritis, which means hereditary like problem with your nephrology, which is the kidney. Yeah. But diagnosis is Alport syndrome.
Okay, gotcha.
I don't think I'm actually Alport syndrome because I'm a weird mutation, but that's all.
Either way, you got no kidneys, or you got 3.
I have 3, 2 of which are atrophied into balls of tissue.
But what if like there was a genetic thing that just like was able to take those balls of tissue and be like, new kidneys? It's like, I don't deny that will probably be the future in, say, 100 years.
Yeah.
You'll be able to take it one shot, one pill, and then kidneys.
Or that they can take me and pull out some blood, change my genetic sequence to where I am able to produce the protein that I'm not able to produce.
Yeah.
And my body just fully recovers.
Yep, it could happen. Like, that's the future of it. And then what also happens when like the whole concept of biology is overridden because our nanotech is so good, or whatever. I don't know. Who knows what the future is up to? But for now, the best we can do is apparently a few inches on your legs. Oh, specifically your femurs. Maybe your shins. I don't know. 2 bones. Very
Maybe they do both of them to make it.
Add a few vertebrae in there while they're at. Just pop a few in them. And then LASIK. And Tory Johnson's elbow.
Tommy John.
Well, this has been enlightening. Many drugs out there. I have so many options.
You have so many.
But I'm not in any athletics, so I can take whatever I want.
And deal with the side effects.
Yep, I sure can.
There are no miracle drugs out there, kids. Don't take them.
There's no limitless pill. It doesn't exist.
Correct.
Even the best ADHD medications are not that. They're basically meth. I mean, it is.
I mean, you're not.
I'm not wrong.
I'm not
I
got
wrong,
nothing
man.
to
I'm
add
not
to that.
Well, thank you everybody so much for listening to Go, my favorite sports team. This has been an enlightening episode about performance enhancements, drugs, surgeries, how I specifically and only me can get taller, and how the entire internet will hound me about that for the next decade.
And how there are many forms of performance enhancing that aren't just sports.
Think you could do that for your penis?
Oh,
The
there's so
leg
many.
thing? The leg thing?
That's a thing. There's actually a thing where you can, yeah.
I'd need a penis reduction if you know what. Subscribe and like this podcast.
Go check out Mark's stuff over where Markiplier exists.
And Apocalypto_12 opposite the table for me. We look forward to getting your ears on our mouths next week. I'm rolling with it. So stay tuned for the hot and heavy Go episodes at you every Thursday. YouTube channel still coming on the way, and then hopefully some live broadcasts. Tune in on a future possible Sunday. We've got some of the tech in this room. You may have seen some of our little preview rant stream about how we were trying to get a live stream going, but we've got most of it. Just need a few more pieces, and then we will be live, so your eyes can be on our mouths as well.
Everything on our mouths, apparently.
Nah, it's gross, man.
You already put ears and eyes.
All right, podcast out.
Bye.
Bye.